It's been 11 years. So I want to tell you that thanks to the science of mind and the teachings and me being disciplined on most days of spiritual practice and practicing, my life really, 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 really works. Okay?
I found such comfort that there was a power in the universe that I could use, that I could absolutely begin to build a life step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice, and that power was there every single moment of every day.
I'm so glad you joined us today. That makes you a part of CSL Dallas, and we love that our community continues to grow. And we also love to give great spiritual content. And a way that you can participate in our community is financially give to it. It's easy to do so. Go to CSLDallas.org and hit the give button. Or you can set up a text giving mechanism at 972-954-4404, a safe and secure way to send us money whenever you watch a great message like this. So thanks for giving, and buckle up, because here comes the spiritual content.
And we'll rise up, rise like the day. We'll rise up, we'll rise unafraid. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. Thank you for all you do, for helping us rise up.
Thank you, Lainey. Thank you so much. So that song is especially intended for the heart of a minister. Every day, I'll rise up. I'll rise up for those that I serve. I'll rise up for myself today. I'll know that I won't be afraid, and by how I bring it, I'll move mountains, and the mountains I move are the people and the lives that I touch. And so I move to start off by thanking every single minister whose shoulders I stand on that helped me get to this moment. In the past 5 years, actually, that would be 11. 11 years since I walked into Oakland Center for Spiritual Living on January 14th of 2007. I'll never forget that day. And so I want to thank any minister, especially any practitioner, any person in the community that is standing with me, because I couldn't be standing here without any of you. And it's for each of us to have people around us to help us rise up. I want to tell you, in December of 2006, although I was very successful in business, I actually wasn't very successful in life. If I look back on it, I wasn't doing life so well. On the surface, I was doing it really well. But underneath the surface, you know, the tip of the iceberg, underneath the water, not so great. When I walked in, well, let's go back to December, the month before. I go back, and I wasn't that successful in my life. I was on antidepressants. I was filled with a lot of self-doubt. I was struggling with being gay since I had grown up my entire life in the Christian community, and I loved my Christian roots and the teachings of Jesus. I was hoping and wishing that I would meet the right person to complete me. It's true. And I was seeking for something always outside of myself, that if that, the car, the house, the relationship, the whatever, I'd be all right. I knew that I'd always had a big heart. I knew, and I do have a big heart, but I was good at serving others. In my community, boy, was I a great volunteer. Any church or any community I went into, I did a lot. I loved it. It was my home away from home. And I was pretty self-centered. I was self-absorbed, and one could say I had quite the healthy ego. And then I was seeking this community and made a New Year's resolution, and there was January 14th of 2007, and I discovered the science of mind. Never hearing of Ernest Holmes before, not knowing what religious science was, especially a First Church of Religious Science, Oakland, mind you. And when I walked through those two doors in that sanctuary, all I know is the voice within me was very clear, and it said, stop searching, stop seeking, this is it, and get busy now. See, I just left the Episcopal Church and was going to be an Episcopal priest. I just knew that was my dream. I was going to make many family members very happy in that, but I could not stand behind all of the doctrine and the dogma. So it was actually the science of mind teachings that brought me to a very good understanding, in fact, a very clear understanding of the teachings of Jesus, my roots, brought them alive. I understood how to put what he was saying to life and into practice in my life. And I learned about this faith, this philosophy, this way of life. And I can tell you that in the beginning and for a few years, it wasn't easy out in the world. I didn't know how to describe it. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to talk about it with certain close family members. And I wasn't very comfortable inside myself. And yet that voice said, this is it. So I took it seriously. And I knew I'd be an ordained minister in whatever this stuff was. Anybody remember? Anybody remember opening that big book for the first time? What? Wow. And you know what? In Foundations, boy, did I gobble it up. And what I did was I took it seriously and started to understand it, and most importantly, put it into practice in my life. You see, I got very clear and know that this is a teaching and a healing order. And I've come to understand and be proud of our teachings and what it stands for and what it does, and the life transformation it is, because I'm a living example of it. And every step of the way, I just kept practicing and practicing, as I still do. And it just kept working and working and working and working. And I have the life of my dreams. What I've come to understand, though, in my journey is that I didn't need to necessarily reconcile stuff, though I tried. I didn't need to include everything in it, though I really did. Buddha, Atma, and Allah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I mean, oh, can I look into this class and this class and this class, or what about this and this and this? I've learned that, especially as I've arrived at CSLDallas 5 years ago, I've clearly understood, because of who the minister is when I arrived, that a laser beam, a focused laser beam, is very powerful. I want to go back to this thing about, I'm going to step up here.
It's okay. You just go right ahead.
About being gay and being uncomfortable. For 50 years in the world, or at least a good portion of it. As a freshman in college, I was understanding, okay, I'm attracted to women. What's up with that? Surprised me just as much as the guys and everybody else around me. And I really struggled with it, to be okay inside myself. I still, at the age of 50, was not solid within Karen until a year and a half into this community, Petra and I fell in love. And as we told the chair of the core council, you know how it goes, then the practitioners, and then, you know, and then it's a Sunday. And I'm going to tell everybody here. And Facebook Live in the camera at 50, 49-ish. I knew something was up when I was shaking and I was freezing and I was cold as I told the core council. Mm-hmm. Then I'd fallen in love with the woman. Now, trust me, I'd had many years of doing that, but something within me was so powerfully out of alignment that I went, how in the world can I stand in front of those that I love the most in a radically inclusive community that I believe welcomes everyone with no judgment and not be okay inside of me? So for the next 2 weeks, I worked really hard with all of my spiritual tools that I had come to learn in this great faith philosophy, and I got really solid within myself that it's okay to be gay. Because the reason I wanted to be causal, so within, so without. If I was not solid in the within, the without was going to hit me hard. And this community was not going to like this announcement. And so I got really solid in my faith and what I believe I stand in and for. And that's to be me in my life. And so when we told, I actually told the community, I was actually dropped to my knees. It's on film, Richard got it, because I couldn't stand there was so much love in the sanctuary, because I got to a place that I was loving myself fully, and I was a laser light that I'm going to be okay inside of me, and I'm going to stand for this, that I'm okay. So, how does that relate to being a Science of Mind minister? Well, I've had the same journey with being okay to stand in front of anyone, a waitress, shopkeeper. You have no idea. You know, when I go places now, I have this little thing around my neck. I tell everybody in the world I'm a minister, and I have cards to prove it. And I just pass them out in the world.
You need those here in Dallas. You need the cards to prove it. Like,
let me tell you about CSLDallas.
Minister.
Oh my God, it's the most loving, diverse community in Dallas, Texas, yada, yada, yada. And, well, what is it? But it's taken me almost 11 years to be like solid within me instead of trying to bring the Christian, you know, I was trying everything. In ministerial school, my colleagues in this room know, I'm going to do the new Christian thing and add this, and we're going to explode this puppy. Some of those sinners are dying. Man, I'm twanging.
Yes, you are. That's because your passion is showing.
So I don't do that anymore. I do meet people where they are, but I don't apologize for what my faith is at all. I'm proud of it. And I say that to say it's been a journey, and it's still a journey. And the one thing I want to share with everybody that wasn't in the sanctuary on the night that we had, we showed Come Sunday with Bishop Carlton Pearson. And we had him up here for a Q&A on Zoom. That was just a nice, brilliant idea I had. I said, don't have to do a plane ride. Just come up here and be with us on Zoom. And he was with us for an hour and a half in his living room, drinking his tea. It was so nice. And he was answering all our questions. And at the end of this, do you know what Bishop Pearson said? Because, you know, he's Pentecostal. Now he's Metacostal. And he's Metacostal. I love that. But what he said is, my gosh, New Thought, Science of Mind is so far ahead of its time. And these other things, they're breaking down, they're crumbling, they're going away. And in the next 50 years, the vast majority is going to be teaching and speaking and practicing this. And I said yes and yes. And I believe that. I believe we're relevant.
I believe we're relevant too. I've been doing this for 35 years. I moved into the science of mind 40 years ago. And you know, I've seen changes. I've seen the pendulum swing. And I've seen and felt my own fear about being science of mind. I think I was 4 or 5 years into the ministry before I didn't say, oh, I'm a religious science minister. Yeah, right? And how many of us do that with our families, at work, all the places? And I've seen the pendulum swing in our own hearts and minds, in our own organization, most importantly, in the way in which we teach and practice the science of mind. Because we, I believe, are still searching for that solid ground. We're still searching for that willingness to say who we are. Speak the truth. Not in a way that makes anybody else wrong, but in a way that says, this path has worked for me. This path has worked for me for 40 years. Now, I will admit that one of the reasons why I like this path, for those of you who don't know me, I am just a little intellectual. I love the fact that I can learn principles, seek to understand them. I'm also surprisingly scientific, and so I love the exploration, the experimentation. Does it really work? Is it really a law? How does it work? And seeing science and spirituality coming together in such extraordinary ways just blows my mind and gives me hope. But I have to tell you that some of my biggest challenges, because I have spent most of my adult life in the science of mind and in the ministry, has been sometimes inside of Centers for Spiritual Living and the science of mind. I've watched the pendulum swing from so radically what appeared to be such a cerebral way of taking on the science of mind that now it's all about the heart. You ought to be heart, because you know that's better than the head. Oh, you don't want to be too intellectual. You have to be in your feelings. And every time someone says that, I'm excluded. Because that's not my path. My path is the Jnana Yoga path, lovingly called the you can't get there from here path. But there are those of us who travel it. Many of them come to the science of mind because there's something to work with and to understand. And so finding our own path in all of that and our own way without riding the pendulum swings. I've watched when I first came into Science of Mind, it was all about, have you manifested your red Mercedes yet? No. What do you mean you're not opulent? What's the matter with your consciousness? I remember those conversations. And we don't do them anymore. Thank God. Praise God, right? That we don't do them anymore. We have evolved, matured. But sometimes it feels like the pendulum has swung so far that we're so willing to open to guidance and be listening to what Spirit has to say that we never actually choose to manifest anything in our lives anymore. And, right? And so our call, I think, as ministers, is to always to the both and. Because it's all about consciousness. Head and heart, intellect and feelings, spirituality and manifestation, living in the spiritual realm of the experience of oneness and being totally grounded in the earthy experience of life itself in all of its messiness. That's a both and. There's no either or in Science of Mind because it's a oneness. And when we embrace that oneness, our lives are enriched, and I believe our ministries are enriched. The biggest way that I've seen this is when I first came in and I first learned about the kingdoms of consciousness, which I know we're all very familiar with. It felt like we were attracting people, we were living it ourselves, we were attracting, and we were really working in second kingdom consciousness. How many of you remember Reverend Ike? Right? People, and I mean, it was like, we are going to manifest, we're going to do it. Terry McBride, all those people, it was like, make your affirmation, do your thing. You are the captain of your ship. Get to busy. Make your life happen, make your life work. It was great. It was great with lots and lots of second kingdom consciousness conversation. And then Michael Beckwith exploded onto our scene and drug us, perhaps kicking and screaming, into third kingdom of consciousness. Right? There's a power for good in the universe that not only that I can use, but that also uses me. And to open to that guidance, and to open to that experience, and to feel the power and the presence moving through us. But I believe that where we're called to, and what we're about, and what is the relevancy of the science of mind, is that we actually live our teachings. They live in Kingdom 4. Our teachings live in the fulcrum of the both and. We have to bring second kingdom consciousness and third kingdom consciousness into the marriage of fourth kingdom consciousness. Every time we do a spiritual mind treatment and we know the truth, we are living, acting, breathing from fourth kingdom consciousness. And I believe that that is the gift. I believe that is one of the fundamental gifts that we have in the science of mind, is this beautiful representation of wholeness. And it's not just even either or. It's either or and then maybe something else, because there's three of them, right? If you look at the teaching symbol, there's three things, and then we want to break it apart. Both and. But not in such a way that is... I think that we become challenged when we are not standing firmly planted in our teachings. I think it was Alice Bandy who said we're open at the top, but we're closed at the bottom. We have a teaching. We actually have a teaching. And I think sometimes that we become so focused on our organization and whether it's doing it right, and those people in leadership, whether or not they're doing it right, and all those other ministers who clearly aren't doing it right. I mean, we've just certainly seen the Facebook posts about how we're not doing it right. And we're so interested in our own selves that we're forgetting what we're here to do, which is teach and heal, bring the message to the world. Give to other people what we got ourselves. So I want to say yay for each of you. Yay for every minister, practitioner, and member who is passionate about living the message. However you live the message, in whatever way that you live the message, in whatever way that you focus on it in your own world, healing and teaching in yourself, in your ministries, in your communities, in your own life. I think that's an amazing thing. So we have a purpose statement here, and we normally read it at the beginning of the service. We are radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, transforming lives. That's what we're about.
They want to do that. You can feel it, can't you?
Okay, let's do that. Good. Let's say it together. We are radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, transforming lives. And so it is.
So it is. See,
absolutely.
They want to do that.
Yes. And Karen and I spent a lot of time, I don't know, it was a few months ago, talking about, like, okay, what does that really mean? What does that mean? What does that look like? What is that really about? And I, being the intellectual introvert that I am, I went away and I thought about it. And what you have to understand is that for me, words have color, and ideas have texture. And when I put words and ideas together, I taste the nectar of life itself. And so I went away and I thought, what does that really mean? And I thought about my history in the science of mind and what it has given me. First, science of mind has given me refuge. Actually, It's both science of mind and the communities I've been in. When I first walked into a community, it gave me refuge. Why? Because I was unconditionally loved and accepted, even though I was a hot mess. And people believed in me, even though I was making messes all over the place. And I learned that when people hugged me, they meant I was huggable. And that I mattered. Refuge. I found refuge in a place that loved and accepted me, no matter what. I believe that that's what radically inclusive means. I don't believe it means we include every idea or every thought. It certainly doesn't mean we include inappropriate behaviors. But it means that every person has refuge with us. Every being, every heart, every life is loved and accepted for precisely and exactly who they are and where they are in their journey. The other thing, surprisingly enough, what I found in this teaching, that I took up so intellectually, I found comfort. I found comfort because I learned that there was a power for good in the universe and that I could use it. You see, I grew up Catholic. I thought there was an eye in the corner of my room that was watching everything that I did. I am not kidding you. And was taking notes, kind of like Santa Claus. Oh my God. And I believed that I had a ephemeris little thing that when I died would float somewhere, depending on how many black dots it had on it. I kid you not. And I found such comfort in recognizing and realizing that there was a power in the universe that loved so completely I didn't need to please it. It didn't judge me. There was no reward or punishment other than there was a power that I could learn about. It wasn't mysterious. It wasn't sentimental. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't something that I had to try to hope I could maybe be good enough to use. I found such comfort that there was a power in the universe that I could use, that I could absolutely begin to build a life step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice, and that power was there every single moment of every day. I found comfort in that. I found comfort that I didn't have to believe in things that my little intellectual brain went like, really? I don't know. I found comfort in the fact that when I asked the questions in Science of Mind that I asked in my catechism, nobody looked at me funny. And nobody patted me on the head and said, there, just do as we tell you. I found comfort in that I could work with that. And finally, I found hope. Oh, spiritually progressive. Did I say that? That's the spiritually progressive part.
There we go.
Comfort, spiritually progressive. And I found hope. I found hope for a life that was going to be different than the life that I had at the moment. Drugs and alcohol and one relationship after the, let's not even go to those stories. I found hope. I was worth it. I could do it. That the universe was there for me. And then I looked around in the sanctuary. Look around, look around, look around. And that's true for every other person here. Every single one of us, it's true for. It's true for every person who walks through the doors of our communities, of our teaching centers, every child that we touch in our focus ministries and in our junior churches, every one of those lives we're touching because we're teaching people to be causally transformative in their own lives. That they can do that. And that is such a hope for our future individually and for our future collectively. So, spiritually, radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, transforming lives, to me that means refuge, comfort, and hope. So one of the swings that I've seen in these years of ministry is this swing, as I mentioned before, from manifestation to spirituality. We also see it in the conversation about whether we're to be about getting stuff in our own lives or we're to be about stuff in the world, right? And for those of you who have followed Jim Lockhart, has read his book, I highly recommend it. We're reading it right now with our core council, the Beloved Community, right? It's based on spiral dynamics. When I came into Science of Mind, we were solidly in the orange meme. For those of you who don't know what the orange meme is, that is, I can create the life of my dreams. You can no longer tell me what to do. We're leaving that traditional idea behind, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to create my life. I'm going to create my life. And we were solidly in that, in a big, big, big way. But we have been moving. We have been moving and evolving ourselves as communities, as ministers, and our theology and our philosophy has all the room it needs for us to move, not only about a life that works for me, but a world that works for everyone. Our global vision is an expression of in moving into what is called the green meme. The meme that it's not just about me and that my life isn't fully enriched until all of our lives are enriched together. And so, again, it's not an either or. When we recognize, we move into that place where it's a both and. A world that works for everyone and a life that works for me. Or if you will, a life that works for me and a world that works for everyone. When we are in the trueness of our oneness, you see, these aren't either or positions. This is the wholeness, the totality, the expression of what I believe our teachings can give to our lives and to the world. One of the things that we're really finding a huge influx of young adults. Karen has been doing a lot of work with them in a program that she started called The Open Door. I have them in my Wednesday nights. And do you know what they're interested in? By God, they are interested in manifesting money and manifesting the things in their life so they can live their mission, so that they can go do their work in the world. They're not just about over here, oh, let's do the work in the world. Oh, no, they completely understand, and they know that we can teach them how to manifest, and we can show them how to do that work in the world in a powerful way that is uplifting and absolutely makes a difference. So they're interested in this manifestation and mission, not an either or, but a both and. These are the things that we can take up and that causes us to really feel like we are moving forward with our teachings and to see how people are taking that up. Our young adults are amazing in this way. We've also discovered that our people are hungry. They're hungry for stillness. They're hungry for quiet. Anybody else feel that way in the room, right? Oh, all that Facebook scrolling, oh my God, right? Oh, digital, right? People are looking for their quiet time and their mindfulness and their meditation. And so that is a great place where our teachings shine. Sit in the stillness, experience the oneness. Be the observer, witness your thoughts, witness your reactions, witness what's going on. Right? Our meditation and mindfulness practices. Mindfulness becomes an entrance into our teachings of responsibility and co-creation. Right? Without mindfulness, we can't actually take responsibility because we're too busy blaming everybody else. But mindfulness opens up to what's really going on here. And meditation, of course, is an entrance to our principles of presence and oneness. So it's been an interesting conversation for Karen and I because she came to Dallas. By God, she was going to bring in Jesus. I don't really do a whole lot of Jesus. Science of Mind is my source text. Science of Mind is my spiritual path. Science of Mind is my grounding. And I love Jesus and Buddha and all of that, and lots of people that inspire me, right? But we've discovered we've discovered that it is in the purity of the teaching. It is in the purity of the teaching that we find our greatest strength. And we find our greatest impact for the people who walk through our doors. It is in the purity of the teaching that we are committed to the language, whatever language it is, whether it's the language of science, the language of metaphysics, the language of other people, but it's always in service to the teaching. Now, one of the things to be in service to the teaching is not to be in service to the church. So we're exploring form. We're in service to the teaching, not to the form. We're finding all kinds of ways to engage. Wednesday nights, our communication manager said Wednesday is the new Sunday and Friday is the new Wednesday. And I'm not quite sure what he's going to say about Saturday when that starts, or Sunday evening, midweek during the day, right? Form is changing. And I think that that's where we ask the question of the relevancy of some of the forms. But the teaching morphs into the forms. I mean, Ernest Holmes says, Spirit is forever taking form and releasing the form that it has taken so that it can take new form. And our relevancy is heightened and enlivened, and actually it's fun to explore what are these new forms. And I think sometimes we've had some rather heated conversations about this, some very interesting conversations about this, but I think personally sometimes I've watched us try to pour new wine into old wineskins. And so by trusting our teachings, we trust in the possibilities. We trust in the creativity. We trust in the emerging evolution of our communities and the people that are in them and their creativity and their ideas and how that the energy moves. And so we look for that energy. Where is that energy? We're going to be talking about this in our Thrive conversation on Thursday afternoon, whenever it is. Thursday afternoon. We're really going to be talking about, we've had intense conversations over the last 3 years about all this. And we, would love to have that conversation with you. What's working, what's not working, how is it working, what are you trying? Oh my gosh. We say that we co-create life. We co-create. Let's co-create ministries that are so passionate, so extraordinary, so amazing, that it's not about whether we're competing with anybody else or we look like anybody else or we're doing what anybody else is doing. Not even just out there, but among ourselves. Let's have our ministries be our own ministries and the way in which that passion and power shows up in our own lives. And finally, I'm going to close my portion by saying, I will tell you the biggest thing that Karen has taught me as she has come into this ministry with me. She has taught me the value of being kind. And do we know how to love our community members? We really do. But I'm not sure we're always kind to each other. As ministers, as practitioners, as leaders, it's easy to point fingers and blame, and it's not being done right. And I think that this kindness is so important. And for me, the hardest kindness is the kindness that I don't show to myself. And so every time that you give me unconditional love, even though I'm an intellectual funny bunny, I feel your kindness. And I think that is one of the most profound things that we do for each other in this teaching called the Science of Mind.
Okay. So, yeah. So, It's been 11 years. So I want to tell you that thanks to the science of mind and the teachings and me being disciplined on most days of spiritual practice and practicing, my life really, 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 really works. Okay? So if any minister, present, camera, live stream, goodness knows what's next, ever wonders if we're relevant, look at me.
Look at each other.
And look at each other. I know that I've come to discover that people come into our communities for probably one or two main reasons. We're just going to keep it to two. For what the teaching can do for their lives, transform lives without doctrine and dogma, which is okay. I'm not saying it's bad, but some people don't want that. But the teachings, these ancient wisdoms, it's 100 years old. Wow, it's so relevant. We haven't even begun.
Started.
Oh my gosh. Imagine humanity surviving and thriving 2,000 years from now. So the transformation of the teachings and putting it into practice, this practical spirituality and or community. There's this thirst for community. Now, I'm going to speak to the CSLDallas community members right now. If you came into this community in the beginning, okay, just the beginning, for the teachings, you were looking for something to help you in your life, would you stand up if you're willing and able? Okay, ministers will look around. If you came into this community because you were looking for a real community in the beginning, please stand up. Okay? Now, I found that some people come in for the teaching and they stay for the community. They come in for the community and they stay for the teachings. It's the both and.
Yes.
So we're relevant. Look at the people standing here. There's millions upon millions upon millions of people. And YouTube and conferences and authors and book signings and whatever. Stability, consistency, community, weekly. Can't do that. This is the high touch right here. And this community gives me hope for humanity. And I know that we have so many centers that give me hope for humanity that before I take my last breath, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
Thank you, community. You give me hope for humanity. Now, the ministers in the room, if you're willing and able, I invite you to rise up. I want you to know you are so relevant. This world needs you.
Yes.
And what I know about ministers, I heard it, Dr. Ken said it, I heard it from so many of now my colleagues through school. If you can do anything else, please do it. Who heard that? And boy, do I understand that after 5 years. And I can't do anything else. So here's what I really claim for each of us, and especially especially if you know this strikes a really strong chord. I know you will give your last breath away for the day. I know you will make that last call, whatever. You will do it to the nth degree. I see the heads bobbing. Do it to the nth degree. We need you, the world, your community. Everyone that's around you needs you to do the self-care, to take the vacations, to demand the vacations, to say a living wage, to do this so that you can bring the whole piece. We're almost done with this. I just got done putting that in there. All of you, relaxed, refresh. And if somebody in your community says, why do they take so much vacation? Why does he take so much? Say, I'm doing it for you. So I can serve you. Be that conduit so we can feed more and more, and especially the ones in our community now. So we shall move mountains as we rise up, as we lift one another, as we support one another, as we steal whatever good ideas out there, borrow, bargain, it doesn't matter, right? So that all of us thrive. Take our vacations, take our day off, or days, and be the extraordinary teachers that you are. The world needs you, and everyone else that stood up before you needs you. We're not the only way. We're not the best way, perhaps, but we are a way that works. And we are a way that's here to stay, and we are a way to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence and to know who every single person is. And we'll share it wherever we can, and let's just stay rising up. Yeah. And she's going to pray us out.
So if the ministers would, actually, I'm going to ask you to stay standing. I know, sorry. And I'm going to ask, hang just a minute, Scott. You're so on the ball, and I'm so grateful. So I'm going to ask our community, those of you who are practitioners and leaders and members of our community, I would like you to just sort of turn your body in some form or fashion that you can bless these ministers. Because the truth is, these ministers bless their communities every day. And we all know in ways that oh God, I just want the ministers in the room to think of all the ways that you give. Okay? Now, I'd like for you to imagine receiving. So I'm going to ask the ministers in the room to be silent and to receive. So community, if you would repeat after me. I see who you are.
I see who you are.
I see your passion.
I see your passion.
I see your pain.
I see your pain.
I see how hard you work.
I see how hard you work.
I see how much you love.
I see how much you love.
I am grateful for your gift.
I am grateful for your gift.
I am grateful for who you are.
I am grateful for who you are.
Because it makes me who I am.
Because it makes me who I am.
I bless you.
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 And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, ministers.
Please be seated.